Is it about time you kicked your business or work up a gear? I find this is the perfect time of the year to get into some quarterly business planning. So that's what I've got for you today on the show. Welcome to Untapped, a weekly podcast where you can learn, apply, and share how to go beyond your human potential to live your best possible life. Join me, Natalie Sisson, on my personal challenges and experiments, including training for triathlons, as well as my interviews with inspiring everyday people who've pushed through their own mental, physical, and entrepreneurial boundaries to reach their full potential. So in the previous episode, I talked about the simple way to crush your next 90 days. And I did that by talking through how I plan out my life, work, relationship, health, personal growth, and beyond goals and intentions for the next 90 days. Now, I do that using Life Pilot, this awesome system that my partner Josh and I have developed. And I hope that you enjoyed that episode. If you haven't listened to it, please have a look on your podcast show notes and check back on the previous episode. But today I wanted to take it a step further because when I was setting up all my quarterly life goals last week, I also did my one-page business plan. Yep, I am the type of person who actually uses my own tools. And damn, I'm really proud of this one-page biz plan template that I have had for probably the last 6 years. If you've ever read my book, The Suitcase Entrepreneur or The Freedom Plan, you will have been given access to this free template. And again, it's free for you to grab. So you can head across to nataliesisson.com/plan. I tried to make it as simple as possible as a URL. So if you want to, you can head there now and actually download it and listen to me as I talk through the sections of it. But as I mention in the title, it is just one page. And this has come out of many years of starting businesses, working with other people on their business plans, and realizing that you just don't need to overcomplicate this stuff. Yes, you want to do your analysis and deep thinking behind whatever it is that you're wanting to do in the next quarter, in the next 6 months, in the next year, in the next 3 years, 5 years. But I think almost all of that thinking, doing, analyzing, strategizing, and research can be condensed into one page. And then you just print this page off and you have it with you. You can put it as a screenshot on your phone if you really want to be that awesome about it. You can hang it up and put it on your wall, multiple walls. Gosh, you could even blow it up as a big, massive poster and just constantly walk by it every day, which if you do that, please let me know because I'd be really curious to see what the power of repetition and actually being very crystal clear on reading your goals and intentions every single day for your business, what that would actually do for your business. But what I wanted to do was share with you today some of my goals and some of my objectives so that if you're wanting to do this for yourself, maybe you've been a little lazy this year, maybe things just haven't been working out quite right, and now you're like, yep, now I can commit to actually putting a plan of action in place, then you go for it. Because I'm a big believer that you don't always need to be planning. I may sound like I've always got all these goals and hopes and dreams and aspirations, but like this is the first time that I put my business plan together this year. In previous years, I've always done it, but I kind of took the last 6 months off from planning because so many things were changing for me. And I'd been let down in a few places, and I'd screwed up in a few places, and I'd done really well in other places. And it just, none of the timing really felt like I wanted to put down a concrete plan of action. And I've got myself to a point now where I've got good schedule going on. I've got my portfolio work, as I talked about in my last podcast. So if you didn't hear, I have a job. I have several consulting contracts, and I still have my business, which I typically do in 1 day a week. So not only have I got the one-page business plan, I also have a 1 day a week business. I'm curious to see what else I can develop around that for those of you who are also quite keen to get your business jammed down into a week, which you obviously don't have to just do in 1 day. But the idea and philosophy behind really considering if you just had, one working day or 24 hours in a week to work on your business, what would you actually prioritize and do? So that's food for thought, and I'll be talking about that in future podcasts. But for today, let's keep on that theme of being focused and prioritizing on what are the most important things you need to be doing right now. So for me, I have set 5 business goals for the next quarter. Now on my template, if you've downloaded it, you'll actually see that where it comes down to projected income, it says for the year. So you can obviously cross out year and put quarter. This is totally up to you to use however you want. You can take stuff out of it, Not that there's much on it anyway, but you know what I mean? It's one page, but you can feel free to work this template to fit your business, your side hustle, your work setup. I'm a huge fan of taking things and working them to fit in with your plans and the way in which you think and want to focus, right? So how my business plan starts is the first step is super easy. You just insert your business name. And the reason for that is the minute you start filling something in and you see the first answer is easy to do, well, it should be easy to do, then you're more likely and inclined to fill in the rest. So insert your business name. And then the second part is to simply state your mission. Now, I shouldn't really say simply state because some people don't have a mission. And this is something that's becoming clearer and clearer to me as I move more into being brand Natalie Sisson and what I want to stand for and what I want to teach and what I want to learn and what I want to show up and do in this world. And so I recently updated it to say, ensure that 10,000 people optimize you, your life, and your work. It's not a particularly well-written mission, but I didn't want to say optimize their life, them, and their work because I want to talk to you. So I should just say, ensure that you optimize you, your life, and your work. That is really what I am here to do. I just want to look at how do we be more productive and effective, but not just how do we hack this and do great habits for this and routines for this, but really how do we stand out and optimize ourselves? How do we become the fittest, healthiest version of ourselves? How do we make the absolute most of the time that we've been given in this world to do good, to make an impact, to have fun, to love deeply? So it's around you, your life, and your work. That is the holy trinity that I'm really focusing on and optimizing that. And obviously in this podcast, untapping that and your potential. So I need to work on that mission. It needs to sound clearer. But when I used to have a mission, I used to have that I wanted to help 1 million entrepreneurs create freedom in business and adventure in life. And that was really big and juicy and it really excited me. But 1 million just seems so goddamn big. Initially, it was 100,000, which seemed doable because if I could get my email list up to, 30,000, which I did at one point, that seemed pretty awesome. And if I could get my podcast downloads up to 40,000 at one point, which I did and is slowly creeping up there again, then these are all ways to kind of measure and say, am I touching the lives of 5 or 10,000 people, but with those 10,000 people, each of them tell 3 to 4 people about my work, and then suddenly you're expanding quite quickly. So 100,000 seemed doable, but 1 million felt like, and I don't think I fully ever believed that number, and nor did I really need to put that number to it. But whatever works for you, if it is a big, juicy, hairy goal that feels like a stretch but is achievable, then put it in there. But make sure that that metric, that number, that statement, that mission means something to you and moves you so that each time you read it, you're like, heck yeah, I want to help those 10,000 people optimize themselves, optimize their life and their work. Like, that's what I'm put on this earth here to do. So, mission accomplished. Well, as in you've written your mission in, it's not accomplished yet. And then you go down into the left-hand column is your business goals. And I only want you to aim for 3 to 5 max. And these are the goal. And then on the right-hand column is the strategy/objective that you are going to put to make that a reality. You could also call this the actions you are going to take to make those goals a reality. So I'm not going to share all of them, but for example, what have I got here? My YouTube channel. So I put YouTube channel growth to 500 to 800 new subscribers by the end of Q2. Then I put in brackets how many I currently have. So I currently have 10,600, although I noticed in the last 2 or 3 days, I've added almost 50 more, which is crazy, and 113 in March. So I was gaining around 3 subscribers a day with just 1 video a week and not a lot of optimization. And then I also put into that goal, so I wanted to grow it by 500 to 800 subscribers, and I wanted to make $250 in ad revenue. Now, that is so pitiful, but the point is, I made $39 in March, and this is just through having, monetized videos on there, so having turned the ad revenue button on. You just click this button on YouTube, and that really is actually, it's not about the money, because $250 is really, in the scheme of things, nothing for all the time and effort I put into creating videos. However, the value of that means that more people are watching and clicking through, and I'm putting out more relevant content, and thereby more ads are popping up on my videos. So really what that means to me is better videos and more views. Well, that is my goal for Q2. And then the strategies that I need to put in place to make that happen are create effective lead magnets on my website, which links into the second one. Focus on strong CTAs, which are calls to actions to lead magnets via my vlogs, and increase views to 500 per video through optimization. So let me talk you through some of the thinking behind this. Each time I do a video, I should always have a call to action, even if it's just to come back to my website. But I'm sure you've watched vlogs before where they're like, hey, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button, which is a great thing to say because you actually have to remind people of the action you'd like them to take. But then they'll often say, and come across to blah for more info. Now, it is effective, but it's far more effective to say, and if you liked this video, I've got a free template or report or video or workshop or webinar or download or ebook or audio or whatever your opt-in may be at nataliesisson.com/fancy name of opt-in. That's simple and easy to remember. Come across and, grab it now and it will walk you through what I've covered in this video. It's just a no-brainer, yet I haven't made the time to create those opt-ins. I have several opt-ins, but I want to rework them. I want them to be better, and I want them to be far more in line with my mission. So those are the 3 strategies that I want to implement over the next 3 months to help with that goal of growing the channel. So it was create effective lead magnets. Then it was focus on actually talking about them in the vlog and producing those vlogs to be able to mention and promote those opt-ins, and then increase the views of the video to 500 through optimization. I've actually hired a lovely lady called Rika who is starting to do that. She's putting in place better thumbnails. So I recently started designing cool thumbnails in Canva, which is the still image that you see on any YouTube video. And thumbnails are the number one reason typically why somebody will click to look at a video. So before they've even hit play, they will see the title of the video, which will interest them if you've done a good job. But the thumbnail is the most eye-catching thing that you can do in that moment to capture their attention. And so she has been going through and using my brand fonts and templates and colors to create much better thumbnails. So mine was starting to look better, and I thought we'd done a couple of cool ones in the last one. And so she's gone off that template to improve and backlog probably about 30 videos, but also in addition to putting up better thumbnails, relabel the titles, optimize them with keywords, etc. And I think that's why I've already seen just in 3 days quite a lot more extension of people viewing the video for longer, clicking through to linked videos, etc. So far, good work. Now, my next goal was the Untapped podcast. Exactly what you're listening to right now. And I wanted to grow the listener base. And when I originally put this goal down, I want to get to 8,000 downloads a month. Because this is a new podcast again after taking a break and changing it, I thought that seemed really doable. And then I went and looked at my analytics the day that I was writing this goal, and I was already at 8,000 downloads a month. And I was like, well, shiver me timbers. I couldn't believe that. So I was really, really thrilled. And I had to then look at, well, that's not enough because we're already there. So I've made it 11,000 downloads a month by the end of the quarter, which is 3,000 extra total. So that's only 1,000 extra per month. And I'm just looking at the analytics on Pippa right now. And Pippa is the platform that I use to host my podcast. Highly recommend it. They've been amazing. And it's showing over 9,000 for the last 30 days, a 23% increase. So thank you so much to you, you awesome listener, for supporting this podcast and tuning in and listening. And just in the last 7 days, 80% increase in downloads. So either I'm doing something right, or, we're talking about the right things here, or you're just being lovely and going to every single Apple store and subscribing to my podcast on their MacBooks, because that actually does help. I just have to say that one of my friends who's a big time podcaster did that way back when I first met them, and I thought it was hilarious. We were in an Apple store and I was looking at MacBooks and I was like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm just going to my podcast on the iTunes Apple store and I'm subscribing to it. And I do this each time I'm in an Apple store across about 20 or 30 devices, and I pick up a whole bunch of new subscribers. And not that those people were downloading it, but the point is it was just cheeky and hilarious. I will come back to the stats on the podcast at another time if you're interested, because Pippa has awesome analytics and it tells you so many good things. But I will say thank you to the 14% of people listening to this podcast who are listening on a device like the Amazon Echo or any kind of speaker device that you have around the house. So if you are making an amazing meal right now and listening to me, thank you very much. If you are dancing around in the kitchen listening, thank you very much. But to the 62% of you on your phones listening, out running, hopefully, maybe training on a bike like I do when I'm listening to podcasts, maybe commuting into work, maybe traveling in a plane in an airport, thank you. Thank you for choosing to listen to the Untapped podcast. So back to the podcast. Well, the growth of the podcast. So, yep, I'd like an extra 1,000 listeners a month, and it looks like that goal has already been kind of crushed. So I need to up that. So I'm not just pulling this metric out of the sky here, but I'm going to go for 14,000 downloads a month by the end of the quarter. So that means that I need to up my game quite a lot. I think it's doable. I will report back to you. And to do that, I had 2 objectives or actions. So the first was to continue targeted social promotion for episode releases and combining this with smart ads and more interviews. Now, that may seem like quite a lot in one objective. Perhaps that could have actually been split out into 2 for ease. But basically, I want to get better at continuing to promote it socially. So I do that usually once, but there's many ways in which you can get an episode out. You can tweet about it several times. You can share it in different ways on Instagram, on LinkedIn and Facebook. You can put it across to Pinterest, for example. And my podcast actually goes directly to my YouTube channel. So there's ways that I can optimize the YouTube video, which is actually just an audio with a thumbnail each time it comes out, so that I'm picking up different listeners of the podcast across all the different platforms. And as I said, I wanted to combine this with smart ads, so most likely sometimes Instagram ads, depending on the topic, because this just comes out once a week currently. It's quite easy to be able to organize an ad to actually get people to download it more or just get more visibility of the podcast. And then I also put more interviews, because I know interviews are really popular. I used to love interviewing people, and I want to splice and dice so that you get to listen to me. Thank you. But also some incredible guests who I've got lined up coming on the show who are going to talk to you about untapping your potential. And then the second action that I had with that was to gain monthly donations of at least $200 through Press Patron, or get a podcast sponsor by the end of quarter 2. Now, listen up, because this is important. So I haven't necessarily done a great job of this, but I have a really cool donation tool that I use. It's actually a business that I have invested in and supported that supports quality journalism and content. And I have been using it for my Untapped show, because I spend money to host this podcast, on my team for helping me get it delivered and produced. Thank you, team. And the time and effort that it takes me to put this together, to research episodes, to interview people. And also just the cost of basically putting out an episode is around $100, $50 to $100, depending on how much editing is needed, what's involved, etc. So not a huge amount, but when you're just producing free content all the time and not necessarily getting a return on that, it's a cost or an investment that I'm happy to make. But it's lovely when people say, you know what, Nat, I really like listening to your Untapped podcast. I'm happy to donate a coffee to you each month, or $10 a month, or something to that effect. And that's what Press Patron allows me to do, is to have you, the listener of my podcast, support me as a content creator so that I can remain ad-free. So if you'd like to check that out, go across to nataliesisson.com/love, and you will see a simple sort of explanation around where your money goes, and also how you can donate. You can do it one-off, you can do it subscription. So it's very much like Patreon if you're in the US, where a lot of people use that for sort of getting some support for the work that they're doing. And this is a New Zealand-based solution, but it's global in its reach. So if you'd like to support me and a startup that is supporting quality journalism and content, please go to nataliesisson.com/love. If, however, by the end of this quarter, there is zero support and zero donations, then either I'm not getting the message out there, people don't think it's worth supporting, and I should probably get a sponsor on to help support this. But sponsors that are really in line with who I know is listening to this podcast, that's you because you're awesome, and what you may need. But I would really prefer to stay advert free, because I'm listening to more and more and more podcasts myself. And even though I appreciate that people are putting sponsors out there in better ways and more informed ways and more entertaining and quite seamlessly, it's still bugs me that some people spend probably up to 3 minutes simply spouting off a number of sponsors that I know they need to help support their show, but it just breaks the flow, doesn't it? So yeah, that's why I would like to stay away from sponsors, at least for this next quarter. So that is one of my objectives, to meet the action of growing the podcast and also making it a feasible way for me to produce content time and time again. I had 3 others. They are related to getting my business brand clearly articulated and cemented in the mind of my ideal audience. And that involves growing my brand, email, and platform, as well as consistent revenue per month. The other one is around LifePilot. So I really love LifePilot, and I want to create a consistent sales funnel for our program that brings in just actually a pretty modest $1,500 by the end of quarter 2. Now that may seem really low to you, but I haven't been doing anything on that. It sells pretty well anyway, but I've got some great ideas around how to package that in a better way that people actually see this as a super valuable tool and system that they can use for life. And there's just a bunch of stuff that I need to do to upgrade that and make it more awesome. And then the final one is around the Freedom Plan. So I am going to be releasing my audiobook, and I have it as an objective here to do that by the end of April. So have actually recorded it by then, to then re-promote my book and the audiobook and my free video series in May. And those are some of the objectives that I had, including a ad and content strategy for the Freedom Plan and working with referral partners in order to improve the sales funnel to get a certain amount of sales by the end of quarter 2. So those are my 5 business goals. You can see there's one that's basically around the brand and platform. There's one around 2 of the product offerings that I have. And then the other 2 are around the growth of my channels of YouTube and podcasting. So I hope that's been helpful for you to hear, and also the objectives that I put to that. And I've shown this to my team. And then from here, we will actually, be implementing this. So the content strategy is going to be built around this. People are going to be aware of what we need to do every single time we're putting something out there. And then a bunch of the other work is simply up to me to schedule in, to sit down and do the work. Below those goals and objectives, I have my income projection. And below that, I have my expenses. Now, my expenses I know really well because I use Xero for accounting, and it shows me exactly what my monthly expenses are across everything. I really don't think I ever used to add those up properly when I had a good old spreadsheet. So Xero doesn't let me lie about how much I'm actually spending, but it also shows me all the income as well as those pesky little international bank fees and transfers and charges that things like PayPal and Stripe actually do deduct, which is also way more transparent for me now. And then based off that, I project out my income for the next 3 months. So that's the number of courses or programs or books or audios sold. And what that is minus the expenses gives me my profit. Pretty logical, good old accounting 101. But that's super exciting because now I have a very clear plan for April, May, and June. And I will report back at the end of June to tell you how I went. And the final 2 boxes on my one-page template are your personal credentials. So that's where you get to list out stuff that you actually have degrees in or accreditations in or certifications, or even just volunteering work and things that you're super, super proud of that you get to put down there. Like, what are your credentials that make you the person who's going to be able to deliver on this plan? And actually the reason for having this box is to be proud of yourself and to go on the days when you're like, oh my gosh, who the heck am I to deliver on this? It's the day you get to look at all those credentials you've listed out and you're like, oh, that's right. I'm awesome. That's why I'm going to make this happen. And then the final one is a personal growth goals box. So in order to make this 3-month plan work, what else do I need to learn, do, be, or become? And this might be that I want to take a course around, for example, Facebook and Instagram ads. Actually, I've got a course that I need to do on that anyway, so that's a perfect example. But I also might need to do a course, or I might need to grab a mentor, or if it's you might need to get a coach just to be able to finesse out some of the areas that you feel a little bit weaker on here, or where you think this plan might come apart because you don't feel skilled enough or experienced enough. It also might be where you need to hire somebody on your team to help you out with this. So once again, this template rocks. It's super simple. I'm now going to hang this piece of paper. Just in case you did wonder, I am actually looking at a piece of paper where I typed this up directly into the PDF because I made it editable. And then I saved it as my own file, and then I printed it. So now this goes up on my wall and I get to look at it all the freaking time to make sure that I'm actually delivering on it. So to get your free template, and this is an example of a call to action to an opt-in right here live, please go to nataliesisson.com/plan. PLAN. I was trying to make it as simple as possible. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Untapped podcast. Please check the show notes for the links below. And if you have enjoyed this, then consider sharing the love by donating a little something to my content and for the effort that I put in to get this out to you. If it's been of value and been helpful, that is one way that you can show the love. But you can also just do that by saying, hey, to your friend that's sitting next to you, or the person on the train across from you, or the entire airport, if that's where you are, or in your office. You can say, hey, you guys should download and listen to Untapped by Natalie Sisson so you can tap into your potential. That would be pretty awesome too. Thank you so much for listening, and tune in every single week for another episode of Untapped. I'm Natalie Sisson. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. My legs are hurting because I've been sitting cross-legged on the bed recording this, and I'm going to go off and stretch.